Reiki symbols are sacred and should not be discussed outside the attunement session. At least, that's what most Reiki practitioners believe. This idea is not wrong by any means. It emerges from the attunement process where a practitioner receives access to specific Reiki symbols. While this gives Reiki symbols their sacred nature, it doesn't make them secret. Attunements are indeed the optimum path to harnessing a symbol's true potential. Still, in reality, you can't enjoy their full array of benefits without exploring them through practice and meditation. In fact, a Reiki symbol rarely has any impact on its own, let alone harm others who are not attuned to Reiki. Unfortunately, this rigid belief, stimulated by secrecy, fosters unnecessary anxiety that leads to no good. Practitioners hesitate to share their experiences with Reiki symbols, and newcomers are always left with only basic, surface-level information. But isn't every practice destined to evolve? I believe that openness can benefit Reiki as much as any other discipline. Reiki's essence lies in helping ourselves and others and has no malevolent intent. Sharing its knowledge can only benefit its progress and participants. Without sharing insights, the practice risks stagnation. Openness can create an environment where everyone benefits. Newcomers gain momentum while seasoned practitioners have the opportunity to grow through fresh perspectives. This is how every practice evolves and flourishes, leading to a thriving and inclusive Reiki community where wisdom flows freely, enabling deeper spiritual growth, healing, and a broader perspective that can impact the world. Hi, I'm Vlad from ReikiScoop, and in this video we'll explore the sacred nature of Reiki symbols and how keeping them secret can be a disservice to the community. If you like the content on this channel, consider subscribing to help others find it. Now, let's dive in. So, what are the Reiki symbols? Well, these are spiritual tokens that can access various manifestations of the universal life force energy. In fact, all symbols in general, from religious, occult, or holistic related symbols, have quite the same role of accessing a certain type of energy and information. In this case, in Reiki, they have the role of cleansing, healing, and activating most of the time. But sometimes there are specific symbols within the Reiki spectrum that have slightly different purposes. For example, the ones that are used for distance healing or for bringing a certain manifestation for harmony in your life. Regardless, they are beneficial symbols that access different manifestations of the universal life force energy, as I was saying. There is a debate within the Reiki community if Mikao Usui was the first one who channeled these symbols. Then there's another debate that says Chujiro Hayashi channeled those symbols or was inspired from the Japanese kanji forms, letter forms, to bring forth these concepts within the practice of Reiki. Then there's the speculation that Hawayo Takata, another student of Chujiro Hayashi, was the one that actually perfected and integrated the Reiki symbols into the practice itself. Regardless, their importance, efficiency, and vibration are unquestionable because they bring a lot of beneficial effects to the Reiki practice itself. But like I always like to say, Reiki symbols are the jewels of Reiki, but they're not the practice itself. And here comes the role of the attunement. Through the attunement process, you receive access to Reiki symbols, but that's not the main purpose of the attunement. You see, the Reiki attunement has the purpose of aligning, shifting, raising your vibration, your frequency to a higher level so that it can match the flow of universal energy, the more abundant flow of universal energy that you receive through this attunement process, in which a master, Reiki master teacher, opens up the energy channels and allows, like I was mentioning, a more abundant flow of energy, and eventually you receive through this attunement also access to the Reiki symbols. But there are people who can access those Reiki symbols without receiving a Reiki attunement. I have to be honest, I've met few that can do that, but there are. What I'm trying to say here is that while the attunement offers access to these symbols, by themselves, they offer no harm whatsoever to anybody that's reading about them, that is exposed to them, that reads about them in a book or on the internet. Or you can even find t-shirts with the Reiki symbols, which is a little bit too much considering their sacredness. And there's no harm, again, in observing them, reading about them, being exposed to them, even if you are not attuned to Reiki. On the contrary, observing these symbols, considering that they are beneficial, and finding knowledge, absorbing that knowledge and using it for your own benefit to make a decision whether Reiki is for you or not, can really determine how open you are in that moment of your life to holistic practices, to spiritual practices, or even to other religious influences. Because they are not meant to be secret. They are meant to be sacred, and their sacredness is intrinsic. If a Reiki practitioner, a Reiki teacher or master teacher decides to, let's say, expose these symbols and present them, they don't lose their sacredness. Of course, it's the responsibility of the teacher or the person that's presenting them to keep that sacred value of the symbols and not deteriorate it or mock them in any way, because that will create a faulty, an erroneous image of their sacredness and importance in healing and practice. The Japanese, which have channeled the Reiki practice through Mikao Usui, are considering symbols such as the Reiki symbols sacred and secret, or at least that's how they were in the 1960s, because it was quite a tumultuous time at that time, and Hawayo Takata decided to keep the Reiki practice and the symbols secret, or more secretive, let's say, in a more restricted area. It was a closed circle, and you needed to have a recommendation so that you can join a Reiki community. And the attunements were very costly. From being free, they became extremely costly because Hawayo Takata realized that people, when they offered something important for free, they don't appreciate the value of what they were being offered. And that's why at one point she decided to keep these symbols a secret, meaning that they will be discussed and offered within the attunement and Reiki sessions and classes. They will not be shared outside for many reasons, one of them being mockery, another one being a bad interpretation, misjudgment, and all those things that are really unnecessary and bring a detrimental value to the Reiki practice itself and its sacredness. Having said that, sometimes when it comes to spiritual practices, the secretness, not the sacredness, can deteriorate the image of the practice itself and can limit practitioners to what they can achieve. Because if they don't receive all the information that they were supposed to receive, they are unable to reach their highest potential. They are unable to practice it properly, not to mention teach it. Again, compared to other symbols from other practices. And when I mean spiritual practices, there are also malevolent spiritual practices, but there are also beneficial spiritual practices, and Reiki falls into the latter. Compared to other symbols from other practices, Reiki symbols are beneficial. They are not used for invocations, rituals, strange rituals, or ominous practices. They're just used for healing and activation of certain structures within the energy field. Of course, they can be used for meditation, they can be used for cleansing your home, they can be used for many purposes, but the essence of each Reiki symbols is beneficial. They access high vibrational stages of the universal life force energy, not the lower vibrational ones. That's why it happens that sometimes when this secrecy is exaggerated, fear settles in between practitioners. Oh, they cannot talk about it, they cannot share their experiences. They are limited only to a few from the Reiki community if they have access to it. This is how the Reiki symbols were perceived many, many years ago. But now, considering them secret is a bit of a stretch because they are everywhere and it's okay. It's normal that they are presented in many places. The way they are presented matters the most, not the fact that they are presented. So that's why we can understand that when things are held back from students or freshly attuned practitioners, they miss the chance to inspire others. They miss a chance to fully understand the benefits of Reiki. And considering the fast-paced lives we live today with stress, anxiety, what's the only option that's left for practitioners is to mostly give up on it or just leave it aside, allow it to be somewhere in the back of our minds, in the back of our life. We don't use it anymore because we don't realize its potential, because we were not presented in the first place the entire aspect. We were not presented the whole picture of what Reiki can offer us. And this can apply for multiple spiritual practices, not only Reiki. I was mentioning before, if you remember, that Reiki symbols are the jewels of Reiki, but they're not the practice itself. That's because, as I was taught initially, Reiki symbols are tools. They are keys that open doors towards manifestations of universal life force energy. And I will mention that all the time because that's what they do. But this doesn't mean that we should solely rely on Reiki symbols in general. We should integrate the Reiki practice, be it with the help of symbols or not. But the idea is to integrate it and feel the universal energy flow each day, even through all our actions, from drinking water to taking care of family or friends to just going out in the park and having a walk. Any kind of action should imply the awareness of the universal energy flow for each moment of our lives, each second. When you are in tune with the flow of universal life force energy, and that's your responsibility through practice and through attunements that you receive and offer others, perhaps if you're a master teacher, that's the purpose of Reiki. That's when you become in tune with the flow of universal energy, and that's when you develop a higher awareness. Your resonance changes, your vibration changes. The world around you begins to change for your benefit, in a sense that you will attract more beneficial opportunities, more beneficial people. You will start changing your perception of the world. Instead of viewing everything like everything is sad and is conflicts. Of course, there are in the world, obviously. You will understand that there is a purpose behind all of this, and there is also beauty. There is also a divine aspect to the world and to the people that you meet in your life. And then you will not have this negative view of yourself or the connection between you and the others, or of the world, or of the other people that are approaching you, that judgmental thoughts, those criticizing ideas about others. All that will change. So, for those practitioners that still consider that Reiki symbols should not be presented outside of a Reiki class, attunement session, trust your instincts and try to see the reality, because when a non-practitioner just observes a Reiki symbols, nothing bad happens. There are other symbols that can potentially have certain effects. The Reiki symbols are beneficial if only they will not feel any harm, but rather they will be either attracted to this idea of Reiki, or they will understand a new perspective about a holistic approach like Reiki, or they will just connect to something beneficial. There's nothing detrimental about, or that secret about, you reading as an uninitiated person, unattuned person in Reiki, reading about a symbol, especially if it's presented in the right way. And what does it mean for Reiki symbol to be presented in the right way? As I was mentioning before, obviously it means leaving outside any kind of mockery or any kind of judgmental thoughts. Just explain that they connect to a certain vibration. They are used for, certain symbols are used for bringing harmony. Others are for cleansing an energy field or cleansing an energy center. Others are for sending distance Reiki healing. Others are for embodying the manifestation of divinity, of pure light in the physical world. There are symbols for enhancing communication, symbols for cleansing the soul, the heart. There are symbols for cleansing and activating the Kundalini energy, because there are many Reiki systems, there's not only the Usui Reiki system, as we practitioners most likely know. So there are many ways of presenting them in their sacred value, and let's call it the right way. So we can create a supportive community where everybody that desires to learn they will learn and they will grow and they will understand, and in turn they will benefit from this kind of practice and they can teach others. Of course, we shouldn't impose in any way this kind of practice to anybody. Everybody learns in their own rhythm when they are ready. Maybe we will receive clients, or if you're a Reiki master teacher, when you are truly ready, when you open yourself and you have learned enough sufficiently that you can present to others what you have learned. And you will also receive what's best for you in terms of knowledge, symbols, whatever it is when it comes to Reiki. Personally, I have met 2 students that I didn't explain to them all the potential that the symbols have in the Reiki practice. And they didn't use those symbols. Maybe it was better for them. That's true. However, they were missing out and they stopped practicing. It was the symbols that determined them after that. When I presented those symbols better to them in a clear image, it was those symbols that made them become more interested in the practice. And that's when they began to be more engaged in this practice. And they realized and they felt the changes. And now they reach the master practitioner level and they want to reach the master teacher level to teach others. Of course, this example was within, let's call it a Reiki community. However, when I present a symbol to someone who is level 1 or even unattuned to Reiki, they begin to be even more interested in the practice. That's because throughout history, symbols have created the bridge between the physical level and the spiritual level. Somewhere in our subconscious or even conscious level, somewhere there, something happens that bridge was created through the presence of symbols. That's why we like to hang symbols, or we like to present them, or there are crystals that are forming symbols. We like to draw them. We like to meditate on them. We like to use them in certain practices because they mean something. They do bring a certain value to our practice. It's not the practice. They don't represent the practice itself, but they bring a certain value. That's why they should be presented and be presented in the right way. Moreover, think a little bit about it. There are so many books, so many articles that present, let's call it, low vibrational methods. I will not go as far as mentioning malevolent ways of practicing certain arts. They are so accessible for everybody, yet not many talk about them. But the Reiki symbols are really the problem when they are presented the right way to all those who are interested in holistic approaches and healing. I don't think so. I think that the Reiki symbols can trigger in an unattuned person, but interested person in healing themselves, can trigger that desire to engage in a practice such as Reiki. Imagine a world where Reiki practitioners freely exchange ideas and they share information, they spread the universal life force energy and the knowledge that comes with it, be it regarding symbols or something else within the Reiki spectrum. Especially if we take into consideration how the world is today with conflicts, stress, these exaggerated dynamics sometimes, the presence of Reiki symbols, their knowledge, their energy, their vibration can really help other people, if at least relax, if not take them to another level in which they want to engage in such a practice, or they even feel like those symbols are cleansing them. And that's how we build the world's vibration. We lift the world's vibration little by little with each practitioner, each day, each self-treatment, each person that learns new things, each person that develops a certain level of wisdom, of awareness, of understanding towards the importance of certain holistic practices, such as Reiki, meditation, Theta healing, and many others. Because Reiki is not the only one which has symbols. Again, the sacred part is the most important. Remember, Reiki is about connection, not separation. So let's use the Reiki symbols for bringing light and wisdom instead of fear or misinformation. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, be blessed.